Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And welcome to a State of the Saints podcast live. And I want to say thank you for checking out this video. If you are looking at it, whether it's morning, noon, night, wherever you are, really do appreciate it. We're going to be talking about New Orleans Saints, of course. I've been going live for the last 3 nights. Or 3 days rather on YouTube, so I thought it would be only right, if I go live on Facebook as well. I want to talk a little bit about an article I just read. It's according to CBS Sports. It talks about the top 5 New Orleans Saints of all time, or people that have something in dealings with the Saints. And Sean Payton and Drew Brees are the ones that are headlining this all-time list. And it followed by Willie Roaf, Ricky Jackson, and Morton Anderson. And I'm looking at this like, I have no problem with this list as far as, some of the top 5 Saints of all time. But I must say that I would have changed this list around. I can understand how they came to this conclusion as far as like who is the top 5 Saints. But I think somebody that is missing from the New Orleans Saints top 5, and that is Archie Manning. Now, Archie Manning, I feel like gets honorable mention all the time when it comes to all-time great Saints. And I do understand that Archie Manning played on a Saints team that wasn't that good. His offensive line could not block, and most of the time Archie Manning was running for his life. But Archie Manning meant so much to the city of New Orleans. He never really had winning seasons, so I think they're probably looking at that. But it wasn't his fault, man. Archie Manning was one of the greatest New Orleans Saints of all time. And I think that he should get some type of recognition because of that. There's a reason why nobody wears the number 8 jersey. His number, it wasn't retired because the Saints don't retire jerseys. But that's how much respect the Saints organization have for him. So I feel like he should have replaced Morton Anderson. I understand that Morton Anderson was one of the greatest kickers of all time, Hall of Famer. I understand why he's on the list, but to say that a kicker had more value than Archie Manning is pretty much laughable. I think we all are in agreement when it comes to Ricky Jackson and Willie Roaf. These are 2 guys right here that were cornerstone players. Ricky Jackson, who led the Dome Patrol, one of the best linebacking groups of all time. And in some cases, a lot of people consider the greatest linebacker group of all time. So the way that I look at it, like Ricky Jackson deserves to be on that list. Of course, we know Drew Brees deserves to be on that list as well as Sean Payton. But let's go ahead and look at some of the other people that could have been on this list. And feel free to put the person down that you feel like should be on the list. Another person I feel like should be on the list, in my honest and humble opinion, is Jim Mora. I feel like Jim Mora should be on the list. Now, I understand that Jim Mora never won a playoff game, but all those years of the Saints losing and being bad, for him to be the head coach, that's when they started to generate winning seasons. That's when they had an elite defense. And a lot of people thought, that could be the recipe for them actually reaching the Super Bowl. They just didn't have a really good offense. They weren't good enough to be, in that number, no pun intended. But, Jim Mora did give the Saints their first winning season, so I think that he should be on the list. Another person that I feel like should be on the list, and I'm looking at George Armentor. He's saying that Deuce McAllister should be on the list, and I absolutely agree. Deuce McAllister was one of the best running backs the Saints ever had. Deuce McAllister was one of those running backs that was ground and pound, and he's well respected among New Orleans Saints fans all over the country and around the world. Also, you can add somebody like Joe Horn on the list. Joe Horn, I feel like Joe Horn is on the list, even though he started his career with Kansas City. He came to New Orleans Saints. He did the majority of his damage, and he was one of the best wide receivers the Saints ever had until a guy by the name of Michael Thomas and Marcus Colston came through the spot. I see Riker says John Velma. I'm going to have to say I don't too much agree with that. I don't believe as much as I respect Jonathan Vilma, much as I love him. I don't feel as if he should be on the list. When I think about Jonathan Vilma, I don't think about him as being a Saint. I think of him more of being a Jet and a Miami Hurricane. Not to say that John Vilma wasn't a good Saint. Not to say that he didn't contribute, because I think he was one of the smartest players, to ever put on the Saints uniform. And I think the Saints' success when they had their Super Bowl run, I think that he was one of the main reasons why the defense was as good as it was. So Jonathan Vilma does get respect, but I wouldn't put him on the all-time Saints team. If let's just say if we were talking top 10, I don't think I would put him in the top 10. And feel free, man. Like if you have a list, feel free to actually put it in. You can put your top 5 or top 10 Saints players that you feel like should be on the list. Now, I think we all can agree in the future, and when they start doing this list, I think Cam Jordan is going to end up being on the list as an all-time great Saint. Cameron Jordan is a really good football player. He's a guy that's durable. He's dependable. And he's a likable guy, man. I don't think I can think of a more likable person than Cam Jordan. Cam Jordan is a guy who just loves being a part of the Saints organization. He loves being a leader. He has embraced that role. And he's consistent every single year. Every single year, Cameron Jordan comes and rises to the occasion. That's one thing that we can depend on. Josh Fox says Jimmy Graham. Heck nah. Jimmy Graham will not be on the list. Jimmy Graham only had maybe like a few good seasons with the New Orleans Saints. Yeah, they were dominant, but I'm just not a fan of Jimmy Graham. Anybody that's followed the State of the Saints podcast know that I'm not a fan of Jimmy Graham, and I don't feel like he needs to be on the all-time list. Now, if we talking about the all-time list of players being soft, then he should be number 1 on the list. But if we talking about players that actually should be all-time great among Saints players, absolutely not. Jimmy Graham was a guy who put up big numbers when he was going against middle-of-the-pack defenses. When he went up against elite players, he shriveled like a cheap tent. He folded like cheap clothes. Like he was one of those guys that you couldn't really depend on. He's 6'7", 260 pounds, letting a 185-pound guy push him around. Like, come on, man, knock it off. Jimmy Graham, not on my list. Should not be considered one of all-time greats among Saints. Definitely wouldn't be on my list. Man, too soft for me, man. Too soft. Soft as cottonelle tissue. Softer than a Posturepedic pillow. Just straight up 100% soft. Doctor's cotton. A baby's bottom. He wouldn't be on my list. No, not a fan. Let's see. We talk about running back. Like I said, Deuce McAllister would definitely be on the list. I think somebody said Gil. Who was that? I think somebody named Gil. Oh, Dalton Hilliard. Okay, yeah, my bad. Dalton Hilliard. Dalton Hilliard, yeah, he had some good years with the Saints. Tony Gilbreth, Galbraith. That's way before my time right there, Bobby. But I do remember who he was. He was a pretty decent Saint. Where do you think Malcolm Jenkins will end up on that list with 2 Super Bowls already and 1 on the way? I like that optimism, Simba. And shouts out to Simba, man, doing his own podcast, man. Y'all check it out. Simba, make sure that you put your podcast down in the comments so people can check it out. Y'all check out Simba's podcast. But anyway, where would I put Malcolm Jenkins among all-time great Saints? I wouldn't put him in that category, folks. I'm sorry. I understand that he won a Super Bowl, but he won a Super Bowl when he was a rookie. And Malcolm Jenkins was not the Malcolm Jenkins that we know today when he was in the Saints uniform the first time around. I mean, the guy couldn't tackle, man. I mean, he was the notorious knee tackler for the New Orleans Saints. He was, what Marcus Williams is with the Saints right now. He had to go to Philly in order for him to develop that aggression. And I don't know if it was the fact that the Saints gave up on him. They let him go. And maybe he had a chip on his shoulder, but he became a much better safety. And I think he was a better safety as an Eagle than he was as a Saint. So he can right the ship and turn it around and maybe do some big things for the Saints. Now that I think he's on a 3-year deal, hopefully, he'll be mentioned among the greats. But the first time around, he wasn't what he was with the Eagles. The Eagles definitely got the better version of Malcolm Jenkins, so I wouldn't put him on the list. What about Aaron Brooks? I'm not going to knock Aaron Brooks too much because Aaron Brooks was the first Saints quarterback to lead the Saints to a playoff win. Okay, he was the first quarterback to win a playoff game for the Saints, so that means something. Okay. But I think we all can agree to the fact that Aaron Brooks, that probably was one of his best moments. He was a guy that I really didn't consider a leader. It was a guy that I can think of maybe like a few other guys before I even come to his name. The fact that he didn't really take it serious, his comments after Hurricane Katrina, about the Saints organization, and the fact that he was throwing interceptions and smiling as if they won the Super Bowl. I don't think that Aaron Brooks would be on my list, but I think you have to give him a little bit of credit. You have to give him a little bit of credit, with him actually winning a playoff game for the Saints. Saints Central on YouTube, so y'all check out Simba's podcast, man. Y'all check out Saints Central, okay? Y'all check it out. Subscribe to his channel, Saints Central. Shouts out to Simba, man. Doing big things, starting his own podcast, man. Y'all support the Who Dat Nation. Y'all support Simba's podcast. Hey, TJ, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. This is The Truth Hurts. Shouts out to Truth Hurts, man. Always come through with the truth. I feel Marcus Colston should be on the list. I think Marcus Colston should be on the list. Marcus Colston is one of the best wide receivers, to play the game. But he's just one of the most underrated wide receivers. He definitely one of the most underrated wide receivers to ever play the game, like completely. Like he played in an era where guys were, divas, the T.O.s, the Chad Johnsons, the Steve Smiths, and he wasn't a guy that talked a whole lot. So I feel like that kind of hurt him in a process. That's why people wasn't really thinking about Marcus Colston. The only thing Marcus Colston was consistent. He wasn't a guy that was out there celebrating. We all know that he would just, cross his heart and, point one finger up to the sky. That was his thing. You know what I'm saying? He was one of those guys that really didn't get that much attention, but he deserved to get attention. And I feel like if the Saints would have had a couple more winning seasons, then maybe he would get the attention that he deserved, man. I can't really describe why, well, I can. I think I can think of this. I know why Michael Thomas gets more attention than Marcus Colston did. And it had a lot to do with the fact that the Saints being really good during the time that Michael Thomas was with the Saints, okay? For the exception, I think, of 2016 when he was drafted, that was like the only time he didn't make the playoffs, okay? And then when he came back in 2017, you had Xavier Rhodes, who was one of the top cornerbacks in the league, and he was out there, doing that boy dirty in the divisional round of the playoffs. That kind of opened the eyes of a lot of people when it came to Michael Thomas. When it came to the Saints, when Marcus Colston was there, they was putting up big numbers. And, they was throwing the ball all over the place, and they had a high-powered offense, but they wasn't winning any games. They weren't going to the playoffs. They was like 8-8, 7-9. So I feel like if Marcus Colston would have got an opportunity to make a couple playoff appearances and actually do something in the playoffs, maybe he'll be mentioned, in much higher regard as he is. So I think that kind of hurt him. But Marcus Colston definitely one of the all-time great Saints, in my opinion. And honestly, since we're talking about all-time greats, I think the Saints need to start retiring jerseys. And the reason why I feel that way is because no disrespect to the Saints, but their history isn't that long to a point where they just have legendary players. And we have to worry about, we got to keep these numbers around. I mean, you can probably count maybe on two fingers how many Saints players that you would actually retire their jersey. Ricky Jackson is number one. Archie Manning is number two. Drew Brees is number three. Maybe, Colston would be number four. Pat Swilling would be another one of them. You know what I'm saying? Like Willie Roaf. I mean, so it's not like you have so many players that you have to worry about, oh, man, we're going to run out of numbers. I feel like the number needs to be retired. I feel like those guys have done enough and contributed in a bigger way, in a real big way. So I feel like those numbers need to be retired. I think now that the Saints are successful and we're seeing guys that can end up being all-time greats, we'll start having issues, okay? I mean, the Saints are now starting to change the narrative of what mainstream sports media thinks about them. And it has a lot to do with Drew Brees and Sean Payton being a coach. So I think that they need to start retiring some of these jerseys. There's no way in the world somebody should be wearing Ricky Jackson number. What do you think about Taysom Hill? David Cash. I think Taysom Hill is a very solid athlete. Okay, I think he's a really good athlete. I think he's a freak of nature. I think that he's talented, but I need to see more out of him, David. I'm not saying that he can't be the future of the New Orleans Saints. I am very skeptical about that, but I think that he can be pretty good. Okay, it all depends on the scheme that Sean Payton has for him. It all depends on, how bad he wants it. I think it is a race against the clock as of right now when it comes to Taysom Hill. I mean, he's around 30 years old now, and, he's going into like the prime of his career. So Drew Brees, I think this year, the fact that Drew Brees is coming back and he's not retiring, I think that kind of hurts Taysom Hill because, I mean, he's getting older, and, the more older you get, the less opportunities you get. So I have no problem with Taysom Hill at all. I just need to see a little bit more from him. Angela says Jonathan Vilma, Will Smith, Colston, Devery Henderson, Meacham in his day, Deuce, Jackson, Mills, Johnson, Swilling, would be a long list. Yeah, Will Smith, I would put him on the list too. I would put him on the list as one of the all-time great Saints. I think that he was very consistent. You can always count on him for double-digit sacks. And he wasn't the fastest guy in the world, but he was really strong and physical. He had good technique, and he had a knack of getting to the quarterback. So I would put Will Smith on the list. As far as Devery Henderson is concerned and Meacham, nah, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, no disrespect to them. They were great contributors. They were great role players. If we was playing basketball, we can count on those guys to shoot the three when they were wide open. But as far as like being all-time great Saints, no, like they were only really good for one thing, and that was the streak route, the 9 route, the deep post. Okay, that was really what they were known for. They had blazing speed, and at that time, Drew had the arm strength to get the ball down the field to them. I couldn't count on them for no skinny posts. I couldn't count on them for a 10 and in. I couldn't count on them to catch a pass, in the middle through traffic. That wasn't their game. So, I mean, not to say that these guys didn't contribute. They did, but I wouldn't put them as an all-time great. Neither one of them. Was Tommy Stevens a waste draft pick in the 7th round? Derek, I don't want to say that because we don't know, okay? I mean, first off, it's the 7th round. If a 7th round pick end up working out, I mean, it's a plus. Teams don't really count on their 7th round picks to actually make the team, Derek. So, it's just a guy that can possibly make the team, maybe a guy that can end up on a practice squad, a guy that can compete and try to work his way through up the depth chart, probably through special teams or something like that. Thomas Stevens, the Saints drafting him, I just feel like it's no harm, no foul. I mean, what they lose, like a 6th round pick next year. So by him coming to the team, I mean, you never know. I mean, this could be a start of something special, or it could just be a guy who is just there for a roster spot or the practice squad or be a part of the scout team. You never know. So I think the Saints, the teams that they're playing this season, you got a couple guys that can scramble around in the pocket. I think one person in particular I know they're going to play this season is Patrick Mahomes. So when you look at guys like that, along with a few other guys, I got to look at the schedule, but I know the Saints have a few guys that can scramble around. You can use somebody like Tommy Stevens on a scout team that can play the role of a Mahomes or play the role of one of those dual threat quarterbacks that can run around. Sometimes, guys getting drafted late in rounds, teams can look at those guys as being great scout team type players. I mean, we seen it with JT Barrett when the Saints had they have guys that can run around in the pocket and stuff like that and scramble around. They got JT Barrett in order to work for scout team because JT Barrett was one of those guys that can run around in the pocket and, help the defense with the workout as far as like them, trying to catch quarterbacks that can improvise. And when you have somebody like Tommy Stevens, he can do the same thing. You're not going to put somebody like Taysom Hill out there on the scout team because there's a possibility him running around, he can get hurt. And that would actually hurt your chances of your secret weapon being being a critical part of your success. So getting somebody like Tommy Stevens who has a similar skill set, a guy that can run around the pocket, and a guy that has an okay arm, I think that it was a smart move by the Saints. Once again, it's a 7th-round pick. No harm, no foul. We going to the Super Bowl this year. What do you think about it? David, I think anytime you have Drew Brees as your quarterback, I think that you have a chance. When Drew Brees retires, then maybe the chances go down, but I still feel like the Saints can be a playoff team. So I do like their chances. I'm a little bit superstitious, David, so I'm not going to have that type of optimism like you or that confidence because, I'm superstitious and I don't want to set myself up for the failure or the heartbreak. So I'm just going to play it as it goes, man, and be optimistic and hope that they can actually make it to the Super Bowl because there are not going to be many chances that you get like this, man. Drew Brees contemplating retirement before this season even started. And who's to say that this isn't his last season? So they got to strike while the iron is hot right now because you can't just say, if Drew Brees retire, we'll be okay. Because, you can be a playoff team because they got leadership. But, that is going to be a huge drop-off when Drew Brees retires. And I think we in the Who Dat Nation need to understand that. So we definitely got to strike while the iron is hot. And I think I just answered your second question. Will he get a Super Bowl ring before he retires? I hope so. Let's see. Antoine says, man, I really miss Will Smith. Rest in peace. Yeah, that was unfortunate what happened to him down in New Orleans. It was just a senseless act. I wish cooler heads would have prevailed. I wish, look, I'm not trying to, throw salt on Will Smith's name or anything like that, but I just wish alcohol and guns were not involved in that. I would just wish cooler heads would have prevailed. Those two would have just yelled at each other, fussed, called their insurance company and battled it out in court. It's so unfortunate that he had to lose his life. His wife had to deal with the fact that she watched her husband die. The fact that we got that young man that shot him in jail, just over something that can be replaced like cars. You can replace cars. Knock on wood, this happens to anybody that's viewing, this video. But you can go out here and you can get into a crash or I can get into a crash, and our car can get totaled. But we can always count on, getting a replacement car, with adequate insurance. So there's only one of us. So I just wish that cooler heads would have prevailed. Those guys would have not allowed, the testosterone and the machismo, to reign supreme in that situation. I just wish that, those guys would have just handled it and Will Smith would still be here today. It's just a sad situation. Both of them had kids. These kids got to grow up without their fathers and, man, it's just sad stuff. TJ, I've been seeing Emmanuel Butler post a lot of grinding workout videos. Do you think that he could take Traquan spot? Excuse me. Can he take Traquan Smith's spot? Look, as of right now, I feel like anybody can take Traquan Smith's spot. Look, I like Traquan Smith. I've been on the front lines trying to defend him as long as I can remember. But Traquan Smith has been a huge disappointment in a Saints uniform. Now, you can take it for what it is. You can say it's the fact that Drew Brees don't really throw him as many targets. But you can also make the argument to say that Drew Brees throws to a receiver that's open. Drew Brees throws to anybody that is open. Drew Brees does not discriminate. He don't discriminate. Like Michael Thomas catching those passes, he catches those passes because he gets open. Drew Brees will throw to the cotton candy man, the popcorn concession guy, the beer concession guy if they're open. So the fact that Tre'Quan Smith doesn't get any targets, and for the exception of that Week 17 game last season against the Carolina Panthers, where I feel like Drew Brees was kind of forcing him to football and he wasn't really open, it just speaks volumes to me. Tre'Quan Smith needs to step it up, or he needs to step aside. And I feel like if we can think about any other receiver whose spot could be possibly taken and not be a part of the rotation, is Tre'Quan Smith. I think he has been a huge disappointment. Him being a third-round pick, coming out of Central Florida, I think the Saints thought they would have been able to, maybe get a little bit more bang for their buck, but they haven't. And I look at somebody like Deontay Harris could possibly take his spot. I don't know so much about Emmanuel Butler. I feel like the Saints will probably use him more in the Brandon Coleman role, more on goal line situations where he's a big body, he's physical, he can win those 50-50 balls. That's the way I see Emmanuel Butler. Emmanuel Butler's issue is, and I think that kept him off the field last season, is he can't block. Okay? And for those that just think that wide receiver is just about catching the football, it is not. You have to be physical, folks, to be a wide receiver. You got to be physical because those guys are jamming you. You got to have good hands because you got to know how to hand fight, because at the line of scrimmage, those cornerbacks are pushing you and jamming you. You got to be able to move their hands aside in order for you to get leverage. And you also, in a running game, you got to be able to block. Who knows? For example, let's just say it's supposed to be a halfback toss or a halfback stretch, from left to right. If sometimes like those halfback toss, the right tackle, if you're going to the left, is not going to run out, and get that first block. Sometimes they have to count on a wide receiver in order for them to block, in order for the running back to actually get a couple of yards. So you got to be able to block, and I feel like that what kept him off the field. I think the Saints did a really good job at keeping him on the sidelines. I know a lot of people don't agree with the method because they feel like, man, we got to see what this guy has. But there is a point where you have a guy who can lose confidence because you put him on the field too prematurely. So I think the Saints did the right thing by not putting him on the field. It can cause him, to mess up his confidence, because you want to make sure that this guy is ready and you give him a fair shot. And he has like all the physical tools, which I feel like that's the reason why the Saints are being very cautious with him. Because, you can't coach 6'4", 225 pounds. So I think that if they can help him work on his blocking, it looked like a lot of his workouts are strength and conditioning, which is no surprise to me. Like I said, they want him to be more physical. So hopefully, he can be more physical. I don't think hands is his issue. I don't think being vertical is his issue either. I just think that it's blocking and the little small stuff that can keep you off the field, man. Wide receivers are really important to the success of a running back, especially for those big runs when they have to block downfield. You definitely gotta be good at that. I'll give you one example, okay? When the Saints were playing against the Tennessee Titans and Alvin Kamara, I think the first touchdown that he ran, you looked at Tre'Quan Smith. Tre'Quan Smith threw a huge block. It was Jared Cook. Excuse me, Jared Cook, the tight end. He caught a touchdown, and that's was the longest touchdown he had with the Saints. He wouldn't have got that touchdown if it wasn't for Tre'Quan Smith blocking down the field. So that's what you definitely need as a wide receiver. You got to be able to block down the field. If you're not doing that, then you're wasting your time. Just to say, I am in Baton Rouge. I am a Chiefs fan. Hope we meet the Saints in the Super Bowl. Should have happened years ago. I am also a MSU Bulldog fan. And shouts out to Mississippi State, man. I went to Starkville so many times in my lifetime, so shouts out to them. Can the Saints locker room survive fellow players turning on one another? Mark, I don't think. I don't think players are turning on one another. I just think that there was just a lack of communication. The climate that we're in right now, I know a lot of people are going to agree to disagree with some issues. The way that I see it, when it comes to like some of these social issues out here, I just think that there can be a division. You know what I'm saying? But I think that they have one common goal, and that's to win the championship. These guys are professional, man. If it was any other locker room, and maybe the locker room kind of similar to like 2014, 2015, I'd be a little bit concerned, because they had a lot of guys in there that were causing division in the locker room. But the best thing about the New Orleans Saints is they have guys outside of Drew Brees that are leaders. Okay, that's something that is a plus, and a lot of people need to pay attention to. I understand that Drew Brees is the undisputed leader of the Saints. Every time we see the pregame, we see Drew in a huddle. But we have to remember when Drew was out for 5 games and he wasn't around the organization, we seen Demario Davis step up. We seen Cam Jordan step up. We seen Teron Armstead step up. So those guys aren't just stepping up in a circle just to hype up the team to get the game started. These are the guys that are in the locker room from, let's just say, Monday through Saturday, you know what I'm saying, up there, making sure guys are being held accountable, making sure guys are respecting one another. So I think that they have enough leadership on the team to not allow some of these guys to go rogue. And I definitely feel like these guys are more professional than some of the locker rooms in the past from the New Orleans Saints. So I don't think it's going to draw a wedge between them. I feel like they kind of buried the hatchet. We've seen support coming off both sides from players. So I think that that's a plus, okay? So I don't think we're going to have that issue going forward. Many Saints fans giving up their season tickets because all the Saints players turning on our Hall of Fame quarterback and Christian man, Drew Brees. Well, people can give up tickets all they want to, but I just feel like that's just kind of, no disrespect, Mark, but I just feel like that's kind of ignorant on their part. Look, I completely understand. Look, as a black man, I get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand that the flag means a lot to people. I understand people love their country. They love their flag. They love their military. They love all these different things. But we have to also understand that there's a different side that don't think of the flag in the same way. The flag, held a lot of people down back in the day, people of color. And there's no disrespect to anybody that loves the flag or anything like that. I just think that it's ignorant of us not to be able to see each other's point of view or agree to disagree. I don't have to agree with you to love you. You know what I'm saying? Like, my family, you know what I'm saying, they don't agree with me all the time, but I love them. I've been talking to people, like, have been calling in on the live shows that I've done on YouTube, and we haven't been speaking the same language. But I would defend the hell out of them to say how they feel. And I feel like if we do that as people, if we agree to disagree, but we still love and respect each other at the end of the day, I think that we'll be okay. Giving up your tickets, saying that you're not going to support the team, all because somebody thinks a completely different way from you, is ridiculous, man. And honestly, that's what got us in this position in the first place, because we're not willing to accept each other's opinion, and we're not willing to respect one another's point of view. We want to continue to keep our own point of view, and we don't want to listen to anybody. We want to see nothing, hear nothing, smell nothing, taste nothing. We don't want that. So as long as we have that type of mind, man, we're not getting anywhere. We have to make sure that we understand each other's point of view. We have to understand that people are from different walks of life, and we have to respect that. Okay? The way, the way that we think is completely different. Okay? Some of the food that we like is different. Okay? You might try something I wouldn't think in a million years of eating, and vice versa. But that don't mean that we're not human. That doesn't mean that, we don't eat to survive. That just means that we look at things differently. Let's stop focusing so much on the things that divide us, and let's focus on the things that can bring us together. Let's stop with that. I see a lot of rhetoric on these pages, man, and I feel like it comes from a place, and I'm not even just talking about people that are white. I'm talking about people that are black. We are trying to create narratives from about people that we don't even talk to on a consistent basis, that we don't try to interact with, because we watch television and we watch all these shows that portray certain stereotypes of black people and white people, and we feel like we got it all figured out. Instead of us going to each other and trying to figure out where each other comes from, what each other stands for, we decide to allow the liberal media, the mass media, television, TV shows, movies to tell us about what's going on, instead of us going to the sources ourselves. And that, my friends, is the worst thing that we can do. And that is very, very dangerous. So for all those people that's considering giving up their tickets, saying that they don't want to come to the game, just remember that we are all different. We are all different. And that's going to always be that way. But one thing that we share is the fact that we're all human. We all want to be loved. We all want to be appreciated. And we all want to be valued. So for all my white people out there, all my black people, my Asian people, my Hispanic people, I love all y'all. Okay. And we all say who that. When the Saints player goes to the 50-yard line and they drop their hand in the center, everybody in unison say who that. Who that said they're going to beat them Saints. I don't see nobody saying who that white man that said they're going to beat them Saints, or who that black man said they're going to beat. Nah, we say who that said they're going to beat them Saints in unison. So if we keep that same type of energy like we do when they hit that 50-yard line, I think the world will be a better place. But thank you very much for your comment, Mark. Straight up. ATJ, how much do you think those 50-yard line tickets are running this year in the Dome? My dad is from New Orleans, but hates the Saints because they didn't draft Warren Moon. He's a Raider fan, and we played them this year. I want to take him. Well, I'm not sure right now. I know you could probably go on StubHub or Ticketmaster and see how much the tickets are right now. But honestly, I kind of wait, because the way the climate is right now, they're not too sure if we're actually going to be able to go to the games. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus Saints game might end up, not having any fans. So don't know how much the tickets cost right off the bat, but on StubHub or Ticketmaster, you'll be able to get the price, man. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be pretty high, especially if you're trying to go to that Tampa Bay game. Tom Brady versus Drew Brees. My goodness. Joseph said, well said, TJ. That's why I respect you so much. Joseph, man, thank you very much, man. Hey, love you, man. And thank you for your support. Once again, man, I just don't get it. I get it, but I don't get it. I don't believe in society telling me about anybody. I'll give y'all a prime example. Okay. So, before I was working at the radio station full time, I was a store manager. And I remember when I got hired to work at this store out in Mississippi, I was living in Mississippi at the time. I needed a assistant. Okay. The store was kind of short staffed and I needed an assistant. So instead of me going out to hire somebody that probably knew just as much about store policy as me, I wanted to hire from within. So they already had an assistant at the time. So I started asking her and inquiring about, different people that worked there. And then one woman's came to my mind, and the assistant was like, oh, no, I don't think she's going to work out. Oh, no, that's not going to work. But it turns out, just the fact that those two had some kind of grudge against one another. So I decided to go ahead and hire her as one of my assistants. And she ended up being one of the best assistants that I had, even better than the one I originally had. And she ended up going on to becoming a manager. Now, what would have happened if I would have listened to that particular person? I wouldn't have knew how great that woman could have been in a managerial role. The same way with us, man. Stop allowing people to tell you about others. Go out there and go to the source yourself. Go out there and have those conversations and figure out, what's really going on. Don't let Fox News, don't let CNN, don't let MSNBC, don't let your homeboy who knew somebody that knew somebody tell you about another person, okay? Because that's how we miss out on getting to know people, man. So just keep that in mind. Well, heard the phone ringing, making sure that nobody on the line. Let me see. TJ, tell who's giving up them tickets. I'll take them. I don't know who's giving up the tickets. I'm not sure about that one. I don't know, man. I know my dad. He has season tickets for over a decade, so I know he always have season tickets. There is nothing in this world like the Who Dat Nation. Exactly. With that money we have, do you think they're going to give Alvin a new contract or get a player? Well, I think they're going to end up like trying to pay some of the players that they need to pay. I agree. I think that's what they're going to do. But I do also believe that, they're not done in free agency. The only reason why I feel like free agency has stopped is because teams don't have opportunities as of right now to give guys physicals with their own doctors. I feel like that's the reason why you're seeing like a shortage of free agents. That's the reason why you probably see guys like Cam Newton still out there, guys like Logan Ryan still out there, guys like Everson Griffin still out there. So guys want to be able to look at these guys face to face and, give them physicals. Who that, TJ? Man, what's going on, man? Hey, T Jeezy, you think it's time for us to upgrade our uniforms? I think the Saints already have upgraded their uniforms, man. They're white on white. Those two versions of the white on white. I think that's something that, that is pretty much new. I think that it is time for them to kind of revise the dark uniforms. I think they, even though I feel like the all black with the gold is pretty cool, but I think that maybe they need they need a couple different versions of that. Now, I don't think they need to go back to like the old Florida League black and gold uniforms. I wouldn't mind to see the black jerseys with the white pants like they used to play if they can do like a different, newer version of that. But I don't think they need to change them completely, man. I think that a lot of people would be upset about that. A lot of people in Louisiana and the Gulf Coast, they're traditionalists. They don't really like change too much when it comes to their sports team. So I think that maybe if you can do like a black and white version of the uniforms, like I said, they already have two different versions of the white uniform. I think they got the best color rush jerseys in the league. Like, honestly, like I feel like that they color rush need to be they classic white jerseys. They need to adopt that as their new jerseys, in my honest opinion. So, but the black and white, if they get some white pants with the black jerseys, that'd be pretty dope. Let's see. Let me go back a little bit, make sure that I didn't miss anybody. Somebody said, oh, yeah, I already read that one. How do you feel about Deontay Harris and Michael Thomas? Well, Deontay Harris, I feel like he is a really good player. I think he's tough. Watching him play against the San Francisco 49ers and how I feel like he was a huge reason why the Saints were in that game. And I feel like he's going to take the extra step. And he reminds me of Tyreek Hill, man. Not as fast as Tyreek Hill is, but Tyreek Hill was just a kick returner when he first got with the Kansas City Chiefs. And then he developed into a top receiver in the league. So I feel like Deontay Harris can do that because he's shifty, he's elusive, he can make people miss. And even though he's a smaller guy, it's hard to get him down on the ground. It's hard to stop a guy that has confidence and determination. And that's what he has every time he touches the ball, man. You can feel the confidence out of Deontay Harris every time he touches the ball. Every time he touches the ball, you feel like something special is going to happen. And he has a lot of confidence in himself. So I like him a lot. I think he's going to be really good. I think he is going to emerge as being one of the best kick returners in the past decade. He had 14 returns for touchdown in college. So I think the sky's the limit for him. And as far as Michael Thomas, what can you say about Michael Thomas at this point? To me, he's the best wide receiver in football. I don't buy into all that, all he does is run slants, because as a former wide receiver myself, I know it's much harder to actually catch a ball on a slant than it is on a streak route. Trust and believe. If you play wide receiver, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For you to be able to get separation on short routes and still catch the ball when a guy draped all over you, that is the recipe for a good receiver. But that's the way that the NFL has trained some of these fans to actually watch football. They feel like if you're not catching deep passes, then that means that you're not a good receiver. No, that just may mean that you're a more exciting receiver, but that don't mean that you're a better receiver. you think about some of these receivers in the past, okay? Let's look at some of these guys, okay? Let's look at Deshaun Jackson. Let's look at some of these other guys that can just run down the field, that can catch passes on a 9 route. I mean, those guys don't last long. One hit on the knee, one ankle injury, they slow down. And what do you have after that? The guys that can run routes, the guys that can run the route tree are the guys that stay in the National Football League 10, 15 years. I mean, look at Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald came into the league running a 4.3. He started to slow down. They put him in a slot, and he's still chugging along. Is he as fast as he used to be? No. Is he catching the ball as many times as he did in the season? No. But he's still playing at a high level. So the route running is going to keep you in the league. They can talk about Julio all they want to. And Julio right now, you can say that, he had a better career than Michael Thomas because, he's been in the league longer. But if I can put my money on anything, I would say that Michael Thomas will play in the National Football League longer than Julio Jones. He will be in the league longer than, some of these other hot receivers right now because he can run routes. And when you can run routes and you have good hands, you'll be around for a very, very long time. Byron says, I'm enjoying your podcast. Keep doing what you're doing. I run Who That Humor page, and it's great to see Saints fans like yourself take it to the next level. What made you decide to start a podcast? Byron, once again, if you're not following this page, Who That Humor page, and I'm going to follow it once I'm done. You know what I'm saying? Because Byron, no disrespect, I didn't know about the page, but I know now, and I'm going to follow it as soon as we done, bro. And y'all make sure y'all follow it too, man. Who That Humor. So the reason what made me want to start a podcast is very simple. 2018, week 1, Saints versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm watching it at my home. I'm watching Ryan Fitzpatrick actually torch the Saints, tear them up, rip them to shreds. Okay? And I was just so frustrated, and I could not believe my eyes that Ryan Fitzpatrick went into the Superdome and beat the Saints. And honestly, I just could not believe what I saw. And at the time, I was fortunate enough, and man, I actually live directly around the corner from the radio station I work at. I no longer live around the corner, but at the time I was living around the corner, and the station manager gave me unlimited access. And anytime I wanted to come over here and wanted to record a podcast or anything like that, he allowed me to come over there and do so. So normally, this was during a time where, I was really dealing with depression and anxiety and stuff like that. And I would come over and vent my frustrations, I'd talk about life, it was almost like, I guess, my therapeutic audio book. But anyway, I came around the corner and I recorded, and I was like really upset about the game. And I played it back, and I was just listening, and I was like, man, I thought it was pretty funny. A couple things that I said, I thought it was pretty entertaining. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to post this. And I ended up posting it, and, people started to give me feedback and stuff like that. And then, I didn't really think anything of it. And then people were like, well, when you going to do another one? And I was like, well, I try to do it again. And the more I started to do it, the more fun I started to have. And I realized that, I didn't care about numbers, and I didn't care about people actually getting feedback. I just did it because I loved it, and I just continue to do it. So for all those people out there that's thinking about starting a podcast, I'm going to give you a little bit of advice. And shouts out to my guy, Jai Anderson. I was able to do an interview with him on his podcast called Lane Yap Legends. I think I seen him in the chat, but check out Jai Anderson and Lane Yap Legends Facebook page and on YouTube. But I was telling him, man, I said, when you're starting a podcast, it reminds me of like when you're trying to grow dreadlocks. And for those that ever thought about growing dreadlocks, about the ugly stage, when you have those small little BB twists in your head, and then you want to wear hats all the time because it just looks like your hair just looks horrible. But you stay consistent with it, and your hair starts to grow out, and eventually you have like these long, luxurious locks. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same way with anybody trying to grow their hair out. You know, you have your ugly stages with that as well before it gets to where you want it to be. It's the same way with podcasts. You're going to start off, it might start off really slow. You might end up having about 5 or 6 people actually looking at your stuff. Might not even have that. But remember why you're doing it in the first place. Remember why you're doing it, because you love to do what you're doing. Have passion. Like, don't worry about the numbers. Don't look at the next person and what they're doing and what's making them successful. And if you want to, like, look at other people where you can see their techniques and some of the things that they're doing, that's fine. But be yourself, love what you're doing, and have fun doing it. And run your race like a horse with blinders on. You know, like they put blinders on horses because the horse can't see what's on the left side of them or the right side of them. The only thing they can focus on is straight ahead, the finish line. So just focus on what you want to do. Don't worry about the ugly stages, because eventually, if you do it enough and you're consistent, people can't deny your passion or your love, and you know, eventually things are going to get better for you. So that's a little advice for anybody that's thinking about starting a podcast. But I love doing it. I love talking to the Who Dat Nation. And I feel like, you know, this is something that I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life, you know. So I'm glad you enjoy it, man. And once again, man, y'all check out Who Dat Humor. I think if we had an all-black helmet alternate would be dope. A redesigned gold jersey would be dope. Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of people talking about the gold jerseys. Who that, TJ? I played linebacker in school, so I have a little thing for that position. With that being said, do you think our packages will pay great dividends in the guys we have in place outside of Demario Davis? Yeah, I think so. I am concerned about the drop-off because Mike Nolan is no longer there. So I think that Mike Nolan is was a big contributor to the Saints defense, and especially the linebackers. So by him going to the Dallas Cowboys, being a new defensive coordinator, I am a little bit concerned about that. I ain't gonna lie. Funny thing, TJ, people say all Mike do is run slants, which isn't true. I looked up his stats. Without his yards with slants, the dude still had 1,425 receiving yards with no slants being counted into that. Diane, you know, I don't really buy into the whole slant conversation. Like I said, I just feel like that comes from fans that really don't understand how hard it is to catch a ball on a slant. Also, I just feel like there's a level of jealousy when it comes to that. Like when a player is really good and he reaches that level of being virtually unstoppable, and that player got to go up against other teams, you know, of course they're going to try to find ways to try to dismiss him or be like, the only way he does this is because of that. I don't care, man. I don't care what they say. I don't care how he catching the ball. The fact is he catches the ball. He does really great things. He's a great route runner, so they can talk all they want to. That's not going to stop his shine. And people still consider him as one of the best elite wide receivers in the league. So they can say whatever they want to say on that. Bruh, I've been growing for 5 years now, and let me see, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, man, absolutely, man. Like, you have to love what you do. You got to love what you do. I always tell people like this, you know, like, if your passion, in my opinion, like, if you do this for the rest of your life and never get paid or get any type of recognition for it, would you still do it? Like that's the true definition of passion for me. You know, I'll say this too. You know, like I told on Jai's podcast, I got into broadcasting because I feel like it's the one job in the world that helps you live forever. You know, like you think about like all the news people in the past that have came through. You know, one person I idolized was Walter Cronkite, Dan Rather, Hugh Downs, Howard Cosell. These are guys that, you know, for the exception of Dan Rather, are gone. You know, like they passed away years ago, 10, 15, even 20 years ago. But these guys you can still pull up on YouTube and their memory is continue to live on. And I feel like it's the same way with broadcasting. My great grandkids will be able to pull up the State of the Saints podcast and say, man, that's my great grandfather right there, you know, doing that. So I feel like, that's my mission, is to live forever. You know what I'm saying? To leave a legacy behind where my son will be able to pull me up, you know what I'm saying, and show his kids, and his kids will be able to show their kids. So that's one of the reasons that motivates me to want to press forward and keep moving on. But like I said, all those people that want to start podcasts, because, I see it all the time. People talk to me all the time. They ask me about starting a podcast. How did I do it? Really, honestly, there is no secret. There's no secret anymore about, how to start a podcast. There's no secret, man. It's just consistency. It's about wanting it. It's about just doing it because you're loving it and having fun. So if you have that in mind, I think you're going to be successful, because it's not going to seem like work. That's good talking, TJ. Kudos for your wisdom. Carla, thank you very much. It's just the truth, man. Just love what you're doing. Like, it don't even have to be podcasting, even your job. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you want to do in life, man, just do it to the fullest. Do it because you love it and you're passionate about it. Man, if I had a sports radio station, I would let you run that, TJ, you and Big Q, but I hope you get your own. Yeah, Joe, man, shouts out to Big Q, man, Pro Media, if I'm not mistaken. Big Q is one of the guys that I really respect. Deuce Winham is another guy. NOS podcast is really good as well. Man, Jai Anderson, man, he's going to be the future of podcasting, in my opinion. Simba, I looked at his podcast as well. Like, man, all these guys are really passionate about New Orleans Saints, podcasting and talking about the team. And I love it, man. I love all this content because, the mainstream media is not going to give the Saints their comeuppance. They're not going to give the Saints the respect they deserve. Too busy talking about big media markets, like the New York market, Philadelphia market. So anytime, outside of Christian Garrett and Bobby Abel, we can get people that are passionate about the team and got wisdom and knowledge and be able to break things down, I think is a plus. So there's never too many Saints podcasts out there. I embrace it. I say if you interested and you love it and you want to do it, hey, give it a shot. Murray, do you think he's going to get more touches this season? Last season seems like he didn't get much of an opportunity outside of AK getting injured. Daniel, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm very concerned about Latavius Murray not getting any carries. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that Sean Payton likes to hang on to the players that he selected, the players that he brought into the organization, the players that he drafted. And I feel like when those other guys come in, they kind of got to get in where they fit in. And I understand Alvin Kamara is a great talent. I understand that Alvin Kamara has a lot of skills, and a lot of ability and stuff like that. But Latavius Murray isn't a slouch. And I feel like anybody that's critiquing Latavius Murray based on his performance last season, I feel like it's very unfair to him. Because I don't feel like Sean Payton actually relied on Latavius as much as he should have. All I know is this. 159 total yards from scrimmage is nothing to sneeze at. And that's what he averaged when Alvin Kamara was out. And that type of production don't grow on trees. So I feel like it's shame on Sean Payton that he didn't use Latavius Murray as much as he should have. And I feel like he should have brought him to the forefront. And honestly, man, when Alvin Kamara wasn't the Alvin Kamara that he was the last few seasons, I feel like he should have turned up the dial on Latavius Murray. Look, Latavius Murray is 6'2", 225 pounds, big physical guy. He can lean forward for 4 yards. And I feel like the Saints kind of took him for granted and they didn't do what they needed to do to help him succeed. So hopefully Sean Payton can get this whole, he's not my guy type thing out of his head and understand that Latavius Murray can be successful for the New Orleans Saints. And I'm hoping that they actually run the football with not only just him, but Dwayne Washington as well, and Alvin Kamara. I mean, these three running back set can really shut a team down, really make a defense tired. So hopefully the Saints can actually, turn up the running game a tad bit and use Latavius Murray a little bit more. You're right, TJ. People want to nitpick your greatness because of their own insecurities. The one thing people love seeing more than watching your rise is seeing you fall. It's sickening. Don, I mean, yeah, that is true, man. I think people love to see car crashes more than seeing cars drive on the road. You know what I'm saying? I guess it's more exciting to see who's in the car, see what the level of damage is being caused or what happened. But look, man, I don't focus on that, man. Look, I want everybody to succeed. Like I feel like, you know, my grandfather is a minister, and he usually say this story here. He says that a person was looking out of the window while they were washing dishes, and they looked across the street and they saw their neighbor had a brand new car. And then they started to look at the house next to the one across the street, and that neighbor had a new car. And looked a little bit further down the street, that neighbor had a new car. And they said the person that was washing the dishes was looking and looking with anger and envy. And he was missing one particular point. It wasn't the fact that he didn't have a new car. He should have been paying attention to the fact that God was in the neighborhood. So when you see another person succeed, and when you see two people succeed and their podcast taking off, or they're doing really good on their job, I don't feel like you should be discouraged. I think that you should rejoice and be happy because you've seen people that you've seen their rise and you've seen them work hard and develop until actually a legitimate powerhouse when it comes to podcasting. And you can look at it and say, well, I can do the same thing too. They were consistent and so can I. So let's rejoice and be happy when people, you know, are getting followers or their podcast is taking off. Like, let's support them. Let's not be that one person and be like, oh, man, I'm not going to support them. Let's not be the person to try to stop the momentum. And I feel not just with podcasts, what I'm thinking about, let's focus on that with life too. You know, let's not stop people's momentum, okay? If you know that you can contribute to something that is powerful and positive, why not be a part of it? Why not be a part of that person's success? Who cares if if you are a contributor to that success? Like, if you think that a person is worth your investment, then invest in that person. Don't just say, okay, man, I just want to stop this person's momentum. Don't do that, man. Show love to people. You know what I'm saying? Show support to people. And be happy that a person is winning out here in these streets. So that's my advice that I have for everybody out there, man. Be happy when somebody is winning. I'm about to put my charge in real quick, folks. Apologize for that. Phone dying. Anyway, let's see. You're right. Oh, I already read that. I agree with you, TJ. The whole Mike T slant conversation. They say all he do is run slants. But my thing is, if all he do is run slants, you know what he does and still can't stop him. That's my point too, Chosen. Like, if a guy doing something, you know what he gonna do and you still can't stop him, that shows you how successful he is. You know? I thought Dwayne Washington was gone. Now they signed him back. He's still there. I like that kid, Zigbo. Yeah, I like Devon Zigbo too. I just feel like the Saints thought they had a player like him already in Latavius Murray. But he reminded me of a young Mark Ingram. People with hate is what's wrong with the world today. I agree. I agree. We need more love in this world. How do you feel about home dude we picked up from Canada? Oh, I think he's pretty good. I think he's pretty good from what I've seen as far as what the highlights are concerned. But, I mean, only time will tell, man. I mean, you're looking at Canadian football. It's completely different from American football. But we have seen guys actually transition. I mean, we've seen Cameron Wake and stuff like that come through, you know, and change from the Canadian rules and, you know, and come to the NFL. So, I mean, it's possible, but it is tough, you know. And in some ways, Delvin Breaux even made the transition. It was tough for him in the beginning, man. He had a lot of holding calls in the beginning. And, you know, he had a few games, a couple bright spots, but it's hard. Everybody forgot we got DJ Swearengen. I don't think I forgot about DJ Swearengen. The thing about DJ Swearengen is not the fact that he's a bad player. He just can't stay healthy. He's still young and he still has youth on his side, but there's only so many times you can get hurt. And teams won't wash their hands with you and say, you know what? I think I'll go in a different direction. So I think we are counting on DJ Swearengen to stay healthy before we really start talking about him. we understand the talent that he has, man. I mean, we seen him play for the Redskins. We seen him in for the Houston Texans. So we know that he has that talent, but you got to stay healthy. I honestly think that we'll use, Ty Montgomery out of the backfield. Yeah, I don't know about Ty Montgomery. I think he'll be lined up in a receiver set when AK needs a breather. Could you imagine AK and Ty in a split back set? That would be dangerous. Yeah, I can see that. You know, I can see Ty Montgomery coming in. I think the Saints will be able to know how to use him. I think that he was one of those players that just caught people off guard because they didn't really realize his skill set when he was playing for the Packers. So he had that one magical season, and then, you know, he was able to get a little money from the Ravens, and then he was able to get a little bit more money from the Jets. But he wasn't one of those guys that just consistently stayed good. I think teams kind of figured him out. So hopefully the Saints can kind of use him differently than some of the teams like the Jets and the Ravens did. And if they do that, then I think he'll be okay. I think he'll be okay. Do you think Ruiz will come in and make a good contribution like Nick Easton did when he had to jump to the starting lineup? Yeah, I mean, Cesar Ruiz is a good offensive lineman. I think he's going to end up playing center, and they're going to move Aaron McCoy to the guard position where Larry Warford originally used to play. So I think Cesar Ruiz is going to be the center, and I think that he's going to be a really good one. I think what the Saints are trying to do, and I think a lot of people need to pay attention to this, is the Saints have a bunch of guys on the offensive line that are better run blockers than they are pass blockers. And I'm saying this, and I'm very happy about this, because the Saints understand that there's going to be a transition that needs to be made as an offense when Drew Brees retires. Anybody that comes into the Saints offense at the quarterback position is going to be young. And we all know that the best friend of a young quarterback is a running game. So I'm very confident and I'm very optimistic that the Saints are using guys like Cesar Ruiz, guys like Ramczyk, guys like Aaron McCoy, and Teron Armstead, because they're better run blockers, and that might actually help the running game. And we might even see the Saints run the football more in the future. TJ, who are your top 5 players on our team you would say you're sold on prior to this season? The top 5 players that I'm sold on, and I'm just going to eliminate Drew Brees from the equation because that's pretty obvious, okay? It's not because I don't like Drew Brees, but it's obvious, okay? And I would assume that you want me to think a little bit deeper than that. But if I can say a top 5 players for the Saints outside of Drew Brees, it would have to be Michael Thomas, Marcus Davenport. It's going to have to be, I'm not going to say the usual suspects, okay? I'm not going to say the usual suspect for the exception of Michael Thomas, because that's the only person at the receiver that I can say that we have right now that I say can contribute right now. I haven't seen Emmanuel Sanders play in the Saints uniform yet, so that's the reason I'm not saying him. I'm not saying that he can't, but Michael Thomas, Marcus Davenport, Kiko Alonso, Marcus Williams, and Jinora Jenkins. Those are the people that I feel like that I'm sold on right now as far as, like, the players. I feel like Davenport is going to take a step forward. I feel like Marcus Williams is going to be a much better safety because Malcolm Jenkins is going to mentor him. I feel like Kiko Alonso is going to be really good at run support because he's going to be healthy. And I just feel like Michael Thomas is a bona fide beast, man. I mean, it's hard to stop this guy. So I feel like those are guys that I'm sold on. Pending, no injuries occur, I think you're going to see Davenport have a double-digit sack season. Have you seen Bond highlights from high school? Dude was a decent running back. I've seen Zach Bond's highlights in college, not in high school. I know he's a really good linebacker. I know he can put his hand down on the ground, and he can cover tight ends and running backs. So that's why that's why I'm sold on him. Why not Lattimore? The reason why I'm not saying Lattimore is not because I don't like Marshawn Lattimore, but it's just the fact that I just feel like I'm very skeptical about players that are on a contract year. Okay, I think that Lattimore is a good cornerback, but I do feel like we're probably going to see consistency out of him, and it's not going to be for all the right reasons. Okay, it's kind of like with Von Bell, right? Von Bell last season was the best season in the Saints uniform, but too little, too late. Okay, so I'm not putting Lattimore on the list because one, it's expected of him to be good. Okay, it's expected for him to be one of the best, but I don't know, man. When you're dealing with contracts, it's kind of a different story. But like I said, if Lattimore, if you gave me a top 10, he'll be in there, but top 5, I'm talking about who I'm sold on as far as like taking their game to the next level. I feel like Lattimore to me, game is already on the next level. I put it like that. His game is already on the next level. He just gets caught. He just get caught looking up at the light sometimes. Like they would rather throw to the Eli Apple side or PJ Williams side than to throw to his side. And sometimes, he gets caught off guard. It probably be way into the third quarter before the first pass get thrown his way, and he's not prepared for it because he used to the ball going on the other side. So I think he needs to stay consistent with that. So ironically, Jackrabbit and Lattimore will rank number 3 in terms of top cornerbacks, number 1 and cornerback number 2 duos in the league. Yeah, I can believe that. Jinora Jenkins is a really good cornerback. The Saints were blessed to get him. And, if he didn't make those comments when he was with the New York Giants, they wouldn't have him. So that was a real steal. They stole him. They stole him from the Giants. So it worked out in his favor. And honestly, he has a new lease on life. You know what I'm saying? Like, he has an opportunity to play for a playoff and Super Bowl contender. No, you weren't doing that for the Giants. The Giants been stinking it up for the last 5 to 6 years. So you come to a team, and if you do your part, most likely the team going to be successful. So why not? He doesn't always be in the spotlight, but I like Craig Robinson. He usually makes the one play that you need. I agree with that. Craig Robinson is a very underrated player for the Saints. I think most of the time he plays on special teams, and we don't really pay attention to him. But when a linebacker goes out, Craig Robinson may not be the fastest, he may not be the strongest, but he always seems to make a sack or interception to help the game. Best play in Saints history, Tracy Porter pick 6, or Garrett Hartley NFC Championship winning field goal. Okay, let me see. Or other. The greatest play in Saints history is Tracy Porter pick 6 because it meant more. Okay, it was the pick that sealed the deal for the New Orleans Saints to win their first Super Bowl. It's kind of hard for me to pick anything else other than that as a number 1 moment. Okay, so Garrett Hartley would be number 2 because it was the kick that put the Saints in the Super Bowl. So honestly, I can't think of no other bigger play than that. So yeah, you're definitely right about that. So Tracy Porter's pick 6 would be number 1. Garrett Hartley's 40-yard kick to get him in the Super Bowl is number 2. And honestly, number 3 would come from Tracy Porter when he intercepted Brett Favre because, if Brett Favre didn't throw that pass, who knows? The Minnesota Vikings probably would have kicked the field goal and won the game. So Tracy Porter is a recipient of, in my opinion, the top 3 plays in Saints history. So 1 and 3. So it's hard for me to pick anything other than that. And number 4 obviously was the first game back. You know what I'm saying? The block punt. You know what I'm saying? So Steve Gleason's block punt. So that would be my number 4. And it's only 3 games. Jackrabbit had 2 picks. Yep. Dude, a beast, man. I seen he had Stephon Diggs on the sideline crying. So that shows you right there, man. Like that goes to show you how good he is. For the fact that he only played maybe 3 games with the Saints, and he still was out there locking dudes down. TJ, what was the worst play you experienced watching the Saints play that made you really consider being done with the team or have a heart attack? Well, honestly, man, I don't think I ever thought about being done with the Saints. I mean, I done seen some horrible plays, man. But if I can just think of one particular play that I was just like, oh my God. It would have to be that Halloween game when the Saints played the Browns. And the Browns were really terrible at the time, and Tim Couch threw that deep pass down the field, and the Browns player caught the pass for the touchdown. That was pretty heartbreaking. The second one would be the game in Jacksonville when they was doing all them laterals, and they lateral all the way to the touchdown. And John Carney missed a chip shot field goal. That was pretty hurtful. And I'm trying to see another one that I can think of. I think, man, those are the two that really stick out to me. Okay, and obviously the NFC Championship game in 2018. Besides that, I mean, take your pick. I mean, the Saints done broke our hearts on many a days. If you've been a Saints fan before 2006, the Saints have really broke a lot of hearts out there. TJ, do you see what Lil Boosie Boo said? Nah, I didn't. I didn't see what he said. If Shy Tuttle could, best outside DB in the NFL and best tackle in the game, yes or no? I didn't get your question. Daniel. Are you asking me who the best outside DBs in the NFL and the best tackles in the game? Are you asking me who I feel are the best, or was there another question on top of that one? LOL for me is when we did all that laterals. Yep, that's the one I'm talking about, against the Jacksonville Jaguars to tie the game, and a field goal kicker missed the extra point. Yep, that's the one I'm talking about. 11 playoff games as well. Worst play in Saints history, Fred Thomas or Brandon Browner? Man, I won't even blink. Fred Thomas. Fred Thomas was the worst Saints player in the history of Saints players, in my opinion. Fred Thomas was horrible. Okay? You can throw Jason David up there too, who stole money. But Fred Thomas, anytime a guy catches a pass on his back and rolls backwards into the end zone for a touchdown, you suck. Anybody do that to you, you automatically stink, in my opinion. So, yeah, Fred Thomas, the worst. Yes, best in the NFL. The best defensive back in the NFL right now, in my honest opinion, has to be Stephon Gilmore. Stephon Gilmore is the best defensive back in football, in my honest opinion. The best, best tackle in the game. The best defensive tackle is Aaron Donald. And then you can throw Fletcher Cox in there. So those are the best. That's the best tackle and the best outside defensive backs. Now, if you're just talking about offensive tackle, the best offensive tackle in football to me is the offensive tackle for the Indianapolis Colts, Nelson. And the second best tackle in the league, in my opinion, is Ryan Ramczyk. Ryan Ramczyk is one of the best offensive tackles in football. You can make an argument to say he is the best. When Marshawn Lynch made us look like children, longest game ever. Yeah, that was pretty bad too. That was pretty bad. TJ, if you only had one job, was a person, it would be John Carney. Yep. if you only had one job was a person, it would be John Carney. Absolutely. He only had one job, and he failed. If Jameis is not the guy, what college quarterback do you see the Saints drafting? I would have to say Justin Fields. Justin Fields would be a quarterback that I can see because he reminds me a lot of Russell Wilson. So anybody that reminds me of Russell Wilson, I would love to see him in the Saints uniform. Justin Fields. You're not going to get Trevor Lawrence because he's going to be going. He's going to be the first pick overall. And I don't think the Saints are going to be that bad. So, so I say Justin Fields. TJ, we love you and our Who Dat team. God bless you all. Yeah, God bless you too, and thank you so much for the love. Yeah, man, I think somebody like Justin Fields would be a really good quarterback for the Saints. That's somebody that I'll be on the lookout, and I'm very interested in how he is going to improve his draft stock. I think he's going to be like one of those quarterbacks that probably going to be like in the top 10. And maybe the Saints think this is going to be the draft where they got to get aggressive. So I don't look at no other quarterbacks that in college right now that kind of just make me excited when I watch them. Aaron Brooks or Teddy B. Teddy B. Aaron Brooks can't. I never pick Aaron Brooks over nobody, for the exception of maybe like Billy Joe Hobart, Billy Joe Tolliver, Jim Everett, Heath Shuler, people like that. But when it comes to a respectable quarterback, I'm always going to pick that respectable quarterback, not Aaron Brooks. TJ, we need a solid replacement cornerback as insurance for Jack Rabbit and Lattimore. I agree with that. I just don't want to see any more role cornerbacks. If they're just good in the nickel but not good on the outside, or good on the outside and not in the nickel. I want to see guys that are versatile. If the Saints can actually get some versatile cornerbacks, then I'll be for that. I think Daquez Denard is still out there. I don't think he found the team yet. So maybe they need to look into finding a guy like that. Logan Ryan will be a little bit too rich for our blood from my point of view, unless he wants like a 1-year deal. So they need to get somebody like that. What do you think Miles Brennan will turn into? A bust? I'm not a fan. Just not a fan, man. Good player, but I just feel like he's not all that. He's not all that. You know what I'm saying? I think he's going to be. I think they're going to take a step back as a team, because how can you replace what Joe Burrow did? How can you replace that? How can you replace a guy that had a historical season like he did, man? But Miles Brennan, like, come on, man, like, he'll be all right. But to say that he's going to be Joe Burrow, nah, I don't believe that. I don't believe it. I think the offense is going to take a step back. Joe Brady's not there anymore. Joe Burrow's not there. He probably have a good, decent season, but if he was to go to the NFL, nah, he gonna be bust territory. But I think they're gonna take a step back, my friend. What Saints player have you met? What Saints players I met? Let's see. Who have I met? I ain't meet none of the most recent Saints players. I met Drew Brees before. That's the only person I met as far as that person. And I'm trying to see who else did I meet. I have to go back, you know what I'm saying? Because, it's been a while, since I stayed in New Orleans. I done met Michael Lewis before. I met Deuce McAllister before. I met Joe Horn before. I met Norman Hand before. I met Joe Johnson before. I met Sammy Knight before. So, some of those older Saints players, I was able to meet them. But none of the new players. I never really met them before. Would be nice to meet them, but I haven't met them. What veteran you see losing their job to a rookie? What veteran I see losing their job to a rookie? I see Alex Anzalone losing his job to Zach Bond. I can see that. I see Mario Edwards Jr. losing his job to a rookie. Mario Edwards, I don't know if I would consider him losing his job. You know what I'm saying? Because he's a role player. How many plays is he originally supposed to have? That's my only thought. Who knows how many snaps he's supposed to get in the first place? So if he was originally supposed to get 10 snaps and he gets 9, will we even know? You know what I'm saying? Will we even know he's supposed to get 10 snaps? So I don't know, man. But Mario Edwards did have 2.5, 3 sacks last season. So and I like the kid, man. I know him personally, so I'm always gonna root for him. I know Mario. That's another Saints player, but I knew him when he was in high school, man, because my ex-girlfriend, her sister dated him, so I know him personally. So he's a good kid, man. I'm always rooting for Mario Edwards. So I'm hoping that he don't lose his job. I will say I'm being biased about that because I know the kid. I like to see Logan Ryan on the team. Yeah, I mean, but we gotta come up with that Skrilla. We need that Skrilla, Joe. No, that ain't Skrilla. I mean, Daniel said that. Man, we need that Skrilla. We need that Skrilla to get somebody like that, man. We can't be asking and wishing. You know what I'm saying? We need them greenbacks. We need them green guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, in order to get somebody like Logan Ryan. Only way I feel like we can get him maybe like on a 1-year deal. He want to be a mercenary for a year or something. So, being a Dominican Sue type guy. So I don't know, man. But as long as they get a cornerback that can actually play, and we don't have to cover our eyes every time the pass get thrown deep downfield, and we hoping like when that camera view comes back into focus that a player didn't catch a pass. I mean, y'all would just be watching that moment like when the quarterback throws the ball down the field deep, and all of a sudden just that moment where the camera just starts to like make that transition. You like, please, oh God, please don't be a big play. You don't know like if the guy wide open or the guy got coverage. Man, those are like some of the toughest moments to me to watch Saints games. When that ball gets through deep, I'm like, please let somebody be back there. Because, they just let you down so many times when it comes to that. My goodness. I just want some guys that can cover. That's all I need. I need some guys that can cover. I just need some guys that I can count on to maybe catch a big pick, interception, or something. Okay, I'm just tired of watching these boys get beat like a Persian rug. I mean, honestly, man, I'm just tired of that. I'm just tired of seeing these guys get beat, So hopefully we see, the cameraman focus the ball downfield and we see less big plays than we've seen in the past. We need to be 55% run, 45% pass next year. We got to have balance in our offense. Drew can't throw the ball all game. Jamarcus, you're absolutely right. Drew Brees throwing the ball 40 times a game is completely passé. I'm tired of it. I'm over it. We know that Drew Brees is great throwing the football. We know he's a marksman. He gets the ball where it needs to be. But I am sick and tired of watching the Saints throw the ball all over the place like they the New Orleans Voodoo. We need to run the football. We need to be more physical than our opponents. And as long as we continue to throw the football all over the place, not only are we not going to go anywhere, but we're going to continue to make games way more interesting than what they got to be. Sometimes you have to trust your offensive line and say, my team is better than your team. My line is better than your line. And you can't do nothing about it. I look at teams like the 49ers. You think the 49ers care that they're going to run the football? You think the Baltimore Ravens care that that they know that you're going to stop them and try to make them, try to stop their running game? You think that they care about that? Heck nah. They don't care. They do it anyway. They like, okay, stop us. Stop us as you can because we're going to run the football and there's nothing that you can do about it. Absolutely nothing you can do about it. Y'all seen what they did to the Green Bay Packers. I'm talking to 49ers. I mean, basically took their heart out and showed it to the entire world. That's the type of team I want to see. I want to see them boys run that football. I want to see some Rough Riders. I want to see some dogs, okay? I don't want to see no guppies. I don't want to see no puppies. I want to see some dogs. And as long as they do that, I think they'll be okay. Logan might want the rain more to get some extra money. You getting big reach out. Let me tell you something, Dan. Straight up. When a player is young and they're still in the league, they want to get the most money they can possibly get. Do you think a player like I'm trying to think. I'm trying to see. Okay, let's use Ndamukong Suh for example. Ndamukong Suh leaves the Los Angeles Rams. The last time he played for the Rams, they won the Super Bowl. He leaves to go to a team They ain't made the playoffs since I was in college back in 2008. I mean, you have to think about, man, these guys want their money, okay? So if you are fortunate enough to be young and go to the Super Bowl, like let's just say like Malcolm Butler, for example, right? Malcolm Butler wins 2 Super Bowls with the New England Patriots. So now he can go out there and just go to the highest bidder because he has his 2 Super Bowls and he's a Super Bowl hero. So when you look at Logan Ryan, a guy who has never really got the big payday, I don't think he's really trying to chase rings right now. I think guys try to do that like towards the latter part of their career. Like you look at somebody like Joe Hayden. Joe Hayden leaves the Cleveland Browns, goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, stays with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He knows he has a better chance of winning a Super Bowl with the Steelers than he does with the Browns. So but Joe Hayden already got the majority of his money. You know, when he was with Cleveland, he was one of the highest paid cornerbacks in the league when he played for him. So I feel like that's what Logan Ryan is trying to do. He understands that he's getting older and it's time for him to get paid. So I don't know if he's at that point right now, Daniel, that he wants to chase after a ring. He wants his money, especially since he hasn't gotten one just yet. Somebody say you got a huge spider on me. For real? Is he saying that? I'm just joking. He's just joking. But anyway, if it bites me, then now you got me nervous because I can't really see. Not guppies and puppies, though. What receiver you think would help take your double coverage of Michael Thomas? Sanders, okay, but who else you think would have a good year? Well, it's tough to say. It's tough to say who was going to have a good year besides Emmanuel Sanders and Michael Thomas, because there's been guys who, you know, have had ample opportunities to make it and they don't. How about as far as the spider thing? I thought, man, shoot, I don't, because I can't see. Like, if you ever go live, you know the only thing that you see is the comments. So I can't really see my clothes or anything like that. So if he joking, then I'm glad he is joking. Y'all really get some entertainment if it was on me. Especially say if it's a big spider. But honestly, man, I haven't seen enough out of these other wide receivers for me to say, man, this guy's going to have a big year. This guy's going to have a big year. I haven't seen anything. So I'm just going to say Emmanuel Sanders is going to contribute in a big way. And maybe like if one of these younger players are able to step up like Deontay Harris or even some of the guys that just recently got signed like Juwan Johnson and Marquise Callaway. So maybe one of those guys can step up. Someone hit the lottery jackpot for $400 million out here. I was at the store that sold the winning ticket 5 days prior. Man, I know you upset. Should have got that ticket, man. Should have got that ticket. That wouldn't be too bad, though. Imagine winning $400 million. My goodness. What would you do if you won $400 million? I don't know what I would do. I don't know what I would do with that. That's money that will set you up and everybody else after you up, even after taxes. The tight ends are going to be beneficial of the wide receivers Cook and rookie Trotman. I agree with that. Adam Trotman, who I feel like can be the next coming of George Kittle, Rob Gronkowski. I wouldn't say Travis Kelce because he's a little bit different from them, but I look at Adam Trotman. Adam Trotman can be the next Rob Gronkowski in my opinion. Like, he reminds me a lot of him. The way that he can block, the way that he can catch, his catch radius. I mean, unbelievable, man. I don't know if y'all ever seen this guy, but, man, he the truth. And as long as he stay healthy, I'm hoping for Smith to start showing up and staying healthy. Yeah, me too. Brandon Coleman, to me, had the potential to be a red zone nightmare, was just a huge waste of talent. Man, he was soft. That's what it was. Like, I say it for you, Joseph. He was soft. Okay? Soft. That was his problem. I mean, anytime, like, a corner or safety get close to him, like, he'll just fold up, man. I remember that time when Drew Brees threw him, like, a a pass that should have been like a 32 or 34-yard gain, and he could have reached out there and tried to catch the football, but he seen a safety out the corner of his eyes, and all of a sudden, like he alligator armed that mug. So he's soft, okay? I think you can do the same thing with Emmanuel Butler. You know, I feel like Emmanuel Butler can be what Brandon Coleman should have been for the Saints. I would become a shareholder of the Saints. Yeah, that's a good investment. That would be a good investment. And maybe you can get them turned around, you know what I'm saying, and hold people accountable. Trotman got a lot of talent but suffered from subpar quarterback play. Yeah, I mean, he went to Dayton, you know, like, I mean, you don't expect to have no Heisman Trophy winning quarterback at Dayton. You know what I'm saying? The fact that he even got a invitation to the combine is a blessing. You know, so I think that he is going to be a good tight end. I think the Saints really did a good job picking him up. I think he is going to be a really good tight end. You know, pending he doesn't get injured. Trying to see if I missed anybody. Don't look like I missed anybody. Probably go ahead and wrap this thing up, man. I just want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast live. Really appreciate the love and the support. Just continue to, support Saints pages all over. Support YouTube channels, and I try to keep you all in touch with all the Saints news that I see. Right now, it's a little bit quiet on the home front as we transition to training camp and preseason. I think there are only going to be 2 preseason games this season. So as the season starts to get closer, I think you're going to see more. You're going to see more news coming out of Saints camp, and it's probably going to be a little bit more excited. When am I going to be back on? Probably going to be. I'm going to try to be on tomorrow evening. I'm going to Jacksonville, Florida tonight, I should say. I'm going to Jacksonville, Florida, so I'm probably going to try to, next time y'all see me going live, probably I'm in Jacksonville. So I'm going to try to go live tomorrow. I won't be able to, I won't be able to go live tomorrow. I'll probably do something that's pre-recorded. But probably going to be Sunday the next time I do something live where I can take calls and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you all, and thank you to everybody that chimed in on the State of the Saints podcast live. I mean, for the last couple episodes, man, it's really been exciting to do. I've been having a lot of fun hearing from the Who Dat Nation. And for those that don't know, I mean, you can follow the State of the Saints podcast on YouTube, youtube.com, search the State of the Saints podcast. There's a lot of content that I put on the State of the Saints podcast I don't put on Facebook. So for those that want to, check out some of the Saints news, want to hear a perspective from the Who Dat Nation, go check out some of the videos that I've done. Check it out. Tell me what you think. Tell me, give me a comment, because I do pay attention to the comments. Anybody that follows the State of the Saints podcast will tell you. And a lot of the comments and the questions that people have, I kind of turn them into shows. I mean, the Who Dat Nation is very important to the State of the Saints podcast. So thank you all very much. Once again, State of the Saints podcast on YouTube. Follow the State of the Saints podcast Facebook page. Support all of the content from the New Orleans Saints podcasters and Saints pages. So thank you all very much for supporting the State of Saints podcast and making it a part of your day. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?